Hi, everyone. So I just had a great opportunity to interview Peter Garza regarding his role as a facilitator, a rotational facilitator at USAA. Now, USAA has roughly 37,000 employees. Um, Within the company in a whole, but within uh, San Antonio itself, that's where we live in San Antonio, Texas. It's a little bit smaller than that. But currently, USAA is going through a huge influx of employees. We have been told that they are actually hiring more than 1,000 employees right now just for the bank side of things. Now, the insurance side could be hiring as well. We're not sure. But for the bank side, we are going through a huge influx of employees. So the facilitators are really, really busy right now. And I was just blessed with this opportunity to actually interview him and that he was able to give up some of his time to do this with me. So please enjoy. All right. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Peter Garza. I'm a rotational facilitator with the USA Federal Savings Bank.
Great, thank you. And what are your responsibilities as a rotational facilitator?
Delivering course material on time. We have a calendar set up to give us deadlines basically because we have to meet um, turnaround time so that you're ready to take calls when you're supposed to be, and so that we also deliver all the material that's required. Others' responsibilities include submitting revision requests to get the material updated when we find things are out of date. It's a fast changing environment we're in, so it's impossible to expect all the material to be up to date. We'll catch things live. During your class, for example, there was a big update about late or the grace period going away. That was a thing we had to update because it was in the middle of a class. Some things like that.
Okay, great, thank you. And what type of education or experience did you have to get this position?
I have a bachelor's of arts, but I don't think that really came into play for this position. Mostly for me, it was work equivalent experience. I've been we call it a senior now on the bank and the insurance side, where basically my job was to coach representatives on the chat channel and phone channel in terms of efficiencies, things they could be doing better. As a senior, I also served as a mentor, so it was developing strong interpersonal relationships with the reps I was assigned to. And then as a bank senior specifically, I was responsible for new hire onboarding, where I did a little bit of facilitating because it was like the facilitation gives you the bare basics you need. And then as a senior, our responsibility was to round it out. Part of that was a curriculum-ish that I had to present to all of the new hires. So it was all of that that really got me the job. My education is a writing degree, which helps a little bit, but it isn't as much as a factor as my work experience was.
Okay, great. And how long have you been working with USAA?
Whew. Since May of 2010, so roughly 13 and a half years.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And what would you say has changed in your job as a facilitator or the training and development department over the last 5 to 10 years?
I've only been with L&D for 8 months, but in talking with my colleagues, I can tell you that one of the biggest changes is about compliance, in terms of before we were allowed a little bit more latitude with how we could generate material. It was like we had the material that was generated, but if something was out of date before, we would just be like, oh, well, I'll pull something up and show the class. Now there's a bigger emphasis on keeping everything uniform. So we can't generate our own material anymore. A big emphasis on finishing on time and really syncing with the business in terms of responsibilities. Because even when I was a senior just a year ago or so, it was like, are you going to do that as a facilitator? Oh, I thought it was your job. I thought it was your job. I thought that now there's no, I thought everyone's on the same page. So I can tell you that's been a big change just in like the last 2 years.
Okay, great, thank you. And what would your prediction for the future of talent development field be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Man, I don't even know. I imagine just what we're looking at, it's just trying to keep pace with demands of scheduling. Like I know before we had, we kind of trained you the hours you were hired into, but then that was such a grind on us that they did it a fixed schedule again the way it used to be. Whereas like when I first hired, all of our training was 8 to 4:30, and then we changed it to meet the MSR schedule. Now we changed it back to so meeting the needs of the business versus L&D is going to probably be the biggest change in figuring out how to keep doing that. Because I know like live work used to be us. We would keep you for an extra week. We would do these extra stuff to help protect y'all, for lack of a better way to say, because you were still in training while still getting job experience. But then we couldn't do that anymore for compliance reasons. You were being held out too far for Q&A. So I think actually now that I started answering, I think compliance is still going to be the biggest thing that's going to change it, because who knows what the next steps are that we're going to have to change and to stay compliant with whatever's happening at any given point.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course.